Let's talk about Super Bowl champion Matthew Stafford and some interesting data. I think that he has some unique analytics and definitely some interesting splits depending on where you go with him. So let's just get into it. So first, something like this is definitely something that I find just immediately very fascinating. These are his numbers when he's under pressure versus kept clean. I don't have this stat there, but I know that it was a big storyline last year about how good his numbers were when he was blitzed. If you blitzed him, he was just fantastic. So I wanted to look at his under pressure versus kept clean numbers. And just so you know what you're looking at, if this is your first one of these videos of mine that you're watching, so the way this works is this is where he ranked in each, in several different categories, split up between when he was under pressure versus when he was kept clean. What's interesting is there are some similarities. So he was, for his PFF grade, he was 28th in PFF grade under pressure, 4th best when he was kept clean. So really good when he was kept clean, not so good when he was under pressure. Not horrible, but, definitely on the bottom half there at 28 if you use PFF grade, which again, the comparison I use for a quarterback's PFF grade is very much a batting average stat. Think about it that way. However, the passer rating, he was pretty good at both. I mean, again, everyone's passer rating under pressure gets worse than when it's kept clean, but when you adjust for everyone else when they're under pressure, he was 6th best under pressure, 4th best when he was kept clean. The big time throw percentage, identical, 7th best. And then the turnover-worthy play percentage, that's what those two are. BTT is big time throw percentage, turnover-worthy TWP is turnover-worthy play percentage. And you see that he was, certainly better when he was kept clean at protecting the football. He's always been a bit of a gunslinger, but definitely more so when he was under pressure. And that might be a little bit of why the PFF grade was lower, is he might have just put the ball in harm's way a little bit more. So again, maybe had a couple more, errors under pressure, but at the same time, that can fluctuate. He was very good under pressure 2 years ago, so that's something that does bounce back year in and year out, and his kept clean numbers are very good. Going over here, I want to talk about his splits when he gets rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds and in more than 2.5 seconds. And also, I probably should mention, I have gone over a decent amount of this stuff before when Matthew Stafford was about to play in the Super Bowl. I made, a couple videos talking about analytics, and I definitely brought up some of this stuff, I'm sure. But there's some new stuff that I'm bringing up that I didn't mention in that video. And also, I just think, we had one more game sample size, right, of the Super Bowl. And I think it's just more fascinating to, talk about now that we're a little bit removed from the regular season and can kind of talk about this, not in relation to how he will perform in the Super Bowl, but just in relation to how he'll perform next year. Anyways, so the less than 2.5 seconds and more than 2.5 seconds, the reason you cut it off at 2.5 is that's typically around when an average play will break down is 2.5 seconds. So less than 2.5 seconds tends to be how well do you run an offense, whereas more than 2.5 seconds tends to be how well do you make something happen when nothing is there. And you see his numbers are better actually at playmaking than at just being a game manager type. PFF grade, solid, 16th out of the 38 sample size. I should have mentioned that earlier. The SS all the way towards the right, that is just what the sample size is. But then he's 4th best in terms of PFF grade when he has, when he holds onto the ball for a while. Passer rating, good at both. Big time throw percentage, though, not, again, a little bit below average when he gets rid of the ball quickly, but really good, top 5, 4th best when he takes longer than 2.5 seconds. So 4 is the lucky number for those 3 categories. Turnover-worthy play percentage, about the same. Will put the ball in harm's way kind of just the same amount, but he just gets way more really big-time throws, which are like home run plays, basically. Just great throws is the way to look at it. He tends to do that more when he, holds onto the ball for a little bit. When things go wrong, that's sometimes where he's at his best. In fact, I think that's a bit of why Sean McVay wanted to get Stafford, right? Is it's less about can he run an offense. Like, him and Jared Goff, there wasn't a massive difference actually in how they ran the offense. I think Stafford was better, but it wasn't like a massive difference. The difference was when, things go wrong, which happens all the time in football, Stafford can give you those positive plays that were the difference in, he can give you that no-look pass that'll win you a Super Bowl kind of thing. Going over here, so this is how far he threw it down the field. So 20-plus yards, 10 to 19, and then 0 to 9 down the field. So you see his PFF grade for, we'll go left to right, His PFF grade, he definitely thrives the most at that 10 to 19 range. Actually, not spectacular, 0 to 9. And again, if you think about it as a batting average, those are, that's an area where you want to have a high batting average, or you expect to have a high batting average. His maybe not so much, but again, he kind of makes up for it with what he does further down the field. Now, the passer rating, kind of a little bit different, 14th best, 20 plus yards down the field, but then really good in that 0 to 19 range. And, passer rating is very much a team stat, not a quarterback stat. I think that probably, to me, says more about the Sean McVay scheme, I would think. Again, with all of these things I have to say, it's all just my interpretation of the data. You can definitely interpret this stuff different ways. The interpretation is up for debate while the numbers are not. Big time throw percentage, really good, 20 plus yards down the field. Third highest big time throw percentage when he threw the ball that far down the field. 10 to 19 still good at 9th. And then there's an asterisk with the 0 to 9 range because he's in a, about a 33-way tie for 5th place because he had 0 and the record was 1. So asterisk there, that's basically a meaningless stat. And then finally, just because of the small sample size, and then finally, turnover-worthy plays, definitely kind of the one glaring stat in all of this that's that's not great, is 33rd in turnover-worthy play percentage. And just to be clear, 1 is the best. 1 means you're the best at turnover-worthy play percentage, which would be the lowest turnover-worthy play percentage. So his 33rd is the, not the worst, but pretty close to the worst in a 37-player sample size there. So, that's kind of where he was very boom or bust. 20 plus yards down the field is the way to, measure it. But again, PFF grade was good there. So it looked like the good still outweighed the bad in that boom or bust mindset. And, then kind of not too bad, above average in, under 20 yards down the field. Finally, his play action numbers are very similar. I mean, again, looking at it here, PFF grade only a difference of 3. Passer rating a difference of 6, who's 3rd best when he wasn't running play action, 9th best when he was running play action. Interesting that his numbers are a little bit better with no play action, given that I feel like Sean McVay kind of is known for his play actions. But granted, that's kind of what he became known for due to having Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. It's a different team now. So it is interesting how Stafford does actually seem to be better when you just kind of let him do his thing as opposed to playing within a structure. Kind of interesting. He's not a game manager. He's just not. Turnover-worthy play percentage, a bit below average on both. But again, that's kind of who he is. You take the good with the bad. So that's how you feel about him. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Stafford in a lot of ways. I think that there's a lot of good stuff here. And again, kind of what I always talk about with these videos is rarely when you look at this stuff, do you think, oh wow, this completely changes how I view a player. It's usually just, oh, I understand who this player is more. And I think the main thing it can do is kind of tell you, how much of Stafford's value comes from playing within a structure versus how much of his value comes from playing out of a structure. And, I think that when you can learn that, you can start to learn other stuff. Maybe that's where Cooper Kupp's value is a little bit, is that he can perform well out of a structure, although he can perform well, any position you put him in, he's amazing. So, and that's kind of the way Stafford is too, because he still is good within a structure as well, which is part of his value, right? Is he's good within a structure and then great out of a structure, which is what makes him a Super Bowl champ. So, yeah, interesting stuff. What do you guys think of all this? What is your thought on Matthew Stafford and what these numbers say? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.